So I think we can start. So everyone will join during my introduction part, and that's fine. So once again, hi everyone. My name is Nastasia, and I'm happy to welcome you on our joint webinar with Meta. Thank you so much for joining us today. I will be talking about Meta ads and how you can achieve better results by using server-side tracking. In just a few minutes, I'll hand it over to our amazing speakers, Rohit from Meta and Dan from Stape. And we also invited our data tracking experts from Stape for the Q&A. So feel free to drop any questions in the Q&A box. We'll be answering them in written also during the session. Now, let me give you a quick intro, and then we'll jump right into the best part. So what we will cover today. First, we will explain the main reasons why your meta ads may be underperforming, especially focusing on how data tracking gaps may affect the results. Then we'll guide you through what Meta Conversions API is and how it can boost your ad performance. And next, we'll show you how Stape simplifies the meta copy setup. And last but not the least from my side, this webinar will be recorded and you'll receive an email in a few days with the recording, with written guides and links to helpful resources. And now, Rohit, please, the scene is yours. Enjoy.
Perfect. Thank you so much and welcome to the session. Thank you very much for your time. So yeah, let's dive into why your meta ads underperform and how tracking gaps can actually lead to lost conversions and also wasted ad spend. So meta ads are only as effective as the data that powers them. These ads rely on that data to optimize targeting, improve conversion rates, and also reduce costs. However, if that data is incomplete, our ads may not be reaching their full potential. And by ensuring complete data, we can unlock better performance and maximize our return on ad spend. So data loss is a significant challenge in today's digital landscape, and it's very important for digital marketers to understand the causes and effects of this. With ad blockers, iOS privacy updates, browser tracking prevention, and short cookie lifespans, we're seeing up to 37% of users blocking tracking scripts. And this limits our abilities to not only receive conversion data, but also optimize ad campaigns. This not only leads to lost conversions and poor attribution, but also results in wasted ad spend and higher cost per results. Think of it this way. Imagine you have a bucket to collect water, but it has holes in it. Every time you try and fill it up, some of the water leaks out. That's kind of like what's happening with data loss. We're trying to collect information about people who visit our website or use our apps, but because of things like ad blockers and privacy updates, some of that information is just leaking out and we can't use it. This makes it harder for us to understand what people are interested in and show them ads that are truly relevant to them. To overcome the limitations of incomplete data, we can leverage server-side tracking with Meta's Conversions API, also known as CAPI. By integrating CAPI, we can capture more comprehensive and reliable data, which enables our ads to reach their full potential. This powerful solution helps businesses unlock better performance, improve targeting, and increased return on investment. And the numbers really do speak for themselves. Advertisers with the Metapixel that set up CAPI saw a 13% average decrease in cost per result, and larger advertisers saw 19% additional attributed purchase events. So the bottom line is that implementing CAPI drives immediate performance benefits. And as these two statistics show, these are really, I would say, material business improvements. So now that we understand why CAPI is important, let's quickly discuss how this works. So when you advertise on Meta, traditionally this journey relied on web data that used the Metapixel, and this relied on browser-based technology. CAPI creates a direct connection between your marketing data and the systems which help optimize ad targeting, decrease cost per action, and measure results across Meta. And since CAPI is less dependent on browser technologies than the Meta Pixel, it can help both enhance how you use your data to improve performance today and also resiliency for the future. And as you can see in the lower part of the flow, you can also send other interactions that are not captured by the Meta Pixel. So for example, from your CRM, and this can actually complete the entire picture of the customer journey. Think of the Meta Pixel like sending a letter through the postal service. You write the letter, which represents the data, put it in an envelope, and then send it to the post office, which represents the browser. The post office then delivers the letter to the recipient, which represents Meta. Now, imagine CAPI as a direct phone call between you and your recipient. You can talk directly to them, sharing all the information you want without relying on the postal service, which again represents the browser. With CAPI, your message is delivered more reliably, quickly, and securely. Here you can see it a bit more visualized. CAPI allows you to share website events that the Pixel may lose due to network connectivity issues or page loading errors. CAPI can also be used to share other types of important events and data that occur offline or even at a later time that the Pixel cannot collect. It's very, very important that you use both the Meta Pixel and CAPI at the same time. This best practice is called a redundant setup, in which advertisers have both the Meta Pixel and CAPI configured at the same time. So let's recap the benefits of CAPI. 1, improve ad targeting. 2, decrease cost per result. 3, improve customer insights. And 4, simplify omnichannel data sharing. Great. Now let's go through some real-world success stories of how businesses are driving improved return on ad spend and client retention by leveraging CAPI. So, for instance, Ray-Ban achieved a 36% greater reach, a 19% decrease CPM, and 7% decrease in cost per conversion by implementing CAPI. This demonstrates the tangible benefits of integrating server-side tracking into advertising strategies. Now let's get into some great examples of how agencies are partnering with Stape to drive significant value for their clients and their own businesses. So Hide and Seek agency has helped their clients uncover more data and opportunities by implementing CAPI and server-side tracking. And the results are absolutely clear. A 15 to 30% increase in data collection in Events Manager, which was validated by Stape's analytics feature. By finding and leveraging this additional data, their clients can now optimize their ad targeting and drive better and more business results. Eric, their co-founder, said, server-side tracking provides more precise results and better performance for our clients. It also gave us new clients who were experiencing this data gap before. So in addition to the performance benefits that this agency's clients enjoy, Hide and Seek was able to increase their service portfolio by offering CAPI as a service, thereby increasing agency revenues. This was an incremental service offering the agency now has as a result of CAPI. And importantly for their clients, they were able to reduce the effort required to implement CAPI to just a matter of minutes. So this case study now gets into a specific client example. So Zwei Digital successfully enhanced performance marketing for their client, which is a German e-commerce brand. By integrating Google Tag Manager with the Stape Shopify app and setting up CAPI, they achieved truly remarkable results, which were a 37% increase in ROAS and a 20% decrease in cost per acquisition. This strategic partnership has driven significant growth and optimize the advertiser's online performance. So as you can see, we've talked through a number of good examples that represent not only improved campaign results, but also how agencies are now offering CAPI as a service and driving incremental business for their own businesses. All right, I'm going to hand it back to Stape now.
All right, thank you, Rohit, for that.
Yeah, I'm stop sharing, and please.
Yeah, Nesta, I'll just pick it up. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Rohit, for the intro and the general description. So let me quickly share my screen, and I'll continue. I have to apologize for the voice. I have a little bit of a cold, so I hope you guys can hear me all right. Okay, let's do the slideshow. Right. Okay, so how Stape simplifies Meta Conversion API setup, which is how to streamline the process, avoid troubleshooting, and scale your setups across multiple clients. So I'm going to break this down into two sections. There will be a Stape section and more of a Google Tag Manager section, which is the implementation one. Right. So first and foremost, I have to mention there's, as probably most of you are familiar already, there's an agency accounts available on Stape. Those allow you to manage multiple customers. They allow you flexibility in billing, meaning you can pay for your customers with your own invoices, with your own credit cards, or you can have them hooked up directly while still maintaining an overview of what's happening in their accounts, any sort of issues, are their containers are running and stuff like that. Obviously, that means a referral program where partners get revenue share on the subscription costs of the customers that they onboard into Stape. There's a demo account available, which I'll demonstrate a little bit later, where you can just briefly tell your customers what it is they can expect on the platform, what sort of features are there and such. So that's part of the agency sort of package that we're offering. I should also mention Stape Analytics, again, in context of agencies specifically. This has been a pretty good selling point for you guys. And this empowers you to demonstrate the actual uplift of switching to server side, be it with Meta or any other trackers that you do there. So you will have a breakdown, as you can see in front of you, by events specifically, where you would see the amount of them that would have been affected by ad blocking if it weren't for Stape and server-side in general. And same for tracking prevention tools such as Safari ITP, Firefox ITP, all of that goodness that modern browsers introduced to limit the amount of signal you can actually collect. Right. On top of that, just some advertising here. So yes, we obviously have a freemium plan. There's no commitment for you to start. There's a 24/7 support, which is available in the chat or via the tickets. Free Academy, courtesy of my colleagues, is a full-fledged course on server-side tracking, which includes a section on Meta specifically. So we urge everybody who holds an account, just go in and do that. That's fully free. You get a certification that you can, share on your LinkedIn and do some swagging like that. Community is, I would think of it as more of a alternative kind of support. There's some people that are active there discussing potentially some more advanced, applications, advanced issues and such. You can always get some help there. Last but not least, 100% compliant. So we are SOC 2 compliant. There's ISO certifications. We're HIPAA compliant, which can be a big deal for your, health and such customers. And GDPR goes by default, of course. So switching to implementation side now. Ways to implement Meta Conversion API, right? We have talked about this a bunch of times. There's pretty much two at the moment. There's a Conversion API gateway, and there's the more of a direct implementation via the server-side GTM. Both have pros and cons. Both can and should be applied in an agency context, right? So just to recap real quick, gateway for a single pixel, the setup takes less than a minute. We've already demonstrated this a bunch of times. There's a ton of videos you can search for, a ton of articles describing that specifically. Gateway assumes no technical knowledge required at all. You don't even need to understand tagging because it just, does everything under the hood. It connects to your existing pixel automatically. Does have some limitations in customization, which again, in certain cases, I imagine are not so relevant, right? So why you would want to consider gateway for in an agency context? I think it comes as a very good ad hoc sort of solution that you can apply at scale. If you have within your customer base advertisers that focus solely on Meta, or maybe Meta is their biggest advertising channel, you can literally onboard hundreds of customers within a single evening, assuming you have access to their pixels. So again, quick and easy, can be applied in scale. There's no specific knowledge that you need to do that. You just follow the interface. You pretty much click next a couple of times. You select proper data set or the pixel ID, and you're good to go. Conversion API via server GTM. Again, I assume most of the crowd here is familiar with it. So just briefly, allows you for full customization, as is the promise of server-side GTM. So you can redact, enrich, or do whatever with your data. You're in full control. Allows you for some offline conversion tracking just by virtue of being server-side GTM. So it can receive your custom webhooks, you can query your data lakes if you want to pull the information. And of course, this all goes with some know-how required. You have to have at least a little bit of knowledge of how to implement all of that. Then again, in the agency context, if your advertisers are doing multi-channel, if it's maybe not only Meta that they're concentrating on, or maybe they already run server-side GTM for some of their necessities, some of their needs, then that would be another good option to go with. Implementation at scale, and I think this is my last slide, and we'll be switching to more of a live demo, right? So fairly simple. I didn't want to bore you with terminology and such. So the blueprint for Meta implementation is you need a proper source of data, which in our context most of the time will be data layer. You need to implement your browser-side pixel, which is part of what Rahit talked about. And you then also need to throw on top a conversion API implementation. So the way we make it easier for you, and the focus here is on scale, is we cover all the three bases to get you where you need to be, right? So there is a Stape application for most of the popular CMSs, especially e-commerce. So you will have Shopify, WooCommerce, Magento, there's Wix, there's Shopware, there's even more coming. So stay tuned, which covers the data layer part. So you install that application on your storefront, you give it the GTM IDs, you give it some basic settings. Suddenly your container is embedded and there is a proper data layer available on the website. From there on, there's a pre-built template for the web container, which you can easily apply. It will be tailored to the specific platform, whichever one that might be. And then there's the same one for the server container, or alternatively, if you're using the gateway solution, or maybe Signal solution, then the pre-built template for server container doesn't make any sense. You would just do the web one, and then the gateway will take part of the server-side reporting. So what I'm going to do next is actually demonstrate that. So we're going to stop the slideshow and switch on to Stape and Google Tag Manager, right? So I mentioned the blueprint. There's a data layer, there's the two templates and how you can do them. So our job here is to make the implementation as smooth as possible, to eliminate at least like basic errors and give you a very, very workable skeleton to then apply whatever customization your specific customer may need, right? So I'm not gonna spend too much time on the Stape side. I assume most of the people here know this. So I have created a container for myself. This is a server GTM hosting. I have added a first-party subdomain and have pointed it to Stape via CNAME on my Cloudflare, which I don't know, probably can see here. So this is all ready and verified. I have chosen Chile somehow for the server location. That's I don't know why. Doesn't matter. There's a bunch of them. There's like almost 50. So you can change whatever's closest to your business, to your customer. So this is up and running. You can see there's no request here. This is a fresh new container. I have also went ahead and created two absolutely clean containers. One is a server container, the other one is the web container. There's nothing going on in them. Again, this will just be easier for me to demonstrate things. However, nobody is stopping you from applying the templates that I'm going to show in an existing containers. That's not a blocker or anything, and we'll stop on that a little bit further down the road. Right. So I also have this beautiful dummy WooCommerce store. There's some flowers being sold. It's at Stape events. Come visit. It doesn't actually work. So we're going to use that as our sort of training ground. Last but not least, I have created a fresh new pixel in my event manager. This is called WooCommerce demo. As you can see, there's nothing going on here, so not much to show, but we're going to discuss some settings here and there. So I'm going to have it open as well. Now, with that in mind, I want to go to my WordPress admin. I've chosen WordPress for today because most of the webinars we did somehow were focused on Shopify. So to give you a bit of a variety and to demonstrate that this is still as easy on other platforms, I'm going to do WooCommerce today. So I am going to go into my admin here and navigate to plugins where I want to install a new one. So I'll click Add New Plugin. And in the search, I'll just say Stape, which will pop up this, and GTM server-side, Google Tag Manager, we can install this. This is now installed, we can activate it. And we're redirected back to the plugins where I can go into the settings of the said plugin that we just installed. Real quick, there's 3 tabs available here: General, Data Layer, and Webhooks. So let's start from the beginning. We want to embed a GTM container on our website on stape.events. So let's give it the web Google Tag Manager ID, which is this, right? We copy it from the container. I'm going to go back, put it here. There's a server GTM container URL. That's the subdomain that we just discussed. So I can just go here, copy this, and put it there. Stape container identifier. This would be this thing. This is responsible for custom loader, for a thing that allows you to bypass a bunch of ad blockers and other things. So I'm going to go ahead and save changes. With this, immediately, if I were to check my website for the presence of GTM, and we can use the console for it, rather the network tab, and just filter by that subdomain, you will see that there's already a request happening, and this has downloaded my container from the SST Stape events. So again, took me just a second. Obviously, we're going to launch preview and go through some events a little bit later, but let me just continue here. So we're done with the first tab. We embedded the web container on site. It took us only a couple of minutes. I assume somebody in the background might have a question. Well, my customer is already running a container. I don't necessarily need to embed it, or maybe I want to embed it with just like a script manager or directly into the theme. You can always disable the container embed. So the plugin then will not do this. It will just do the other things that you configure. For our case, I'm going to leave it be on because I don't have other means to do this. But you always have that flexibility. Now the data layer, pretty simple. There's only 3 checkboxes. So one says add e-commerce data layer events to our website. Check that. Add user data to data layer events. Check that. This will mean that we are going to get like the PII on purchase events, also PII for the logged in customers, for people who hold accounts, have authorized before doing any events. There's a declarate data layer event name option, and this says we will append _Stape to event names in your data layer to avoid potential conflicts and misfires. So that does exactly what this describes. If we were not to use it, our data layer events would be called view item, add to cart, which potentially for an existing customer might create some conflicts because our assumption is they already have some setup going on. The data layer structures are known, the schemas are more or less the same across different implementations. So we've added this to make sure that when you're adding a new implementation, when you're adding or maybe trying or testing this, you will not have existing tags fire on your events, making it so that they actually double fire in a real situation. So this suffix in an event name will make sure that none of the existing tags really do fire, and they're only isolated to what it is that you're doing. So I'm gonna go ahead and save changes. There's a webhook section. This is not part of our demo today, but just real quick. So you may tell the plugin to actually send webhooks directly to your server container. You will give it a URL, which we already did. You can just copy that. There's a purchase webhook. There's some options for the order webhook because of how WooCommerce works. So where this one will just send you all purchase events, this will only send a purchase event in the processing stage. This one will only send purchase events once the payment has actually has been completed successfully, right? This makes sense for those customers who do customizations to their native, normal, clean WooCommerce, where they have thank you pages before the payments occur and such other situations. Again, we're not talking about webhooks today too much, but this is just to give you an overview. There's also a refund webhook event, which might be interesting for those of you doing conversion adjustments, maybe actually reporting refunds to your ads cabinets and such. So let's not do webhooks. We've enabled the data layer. We've enabled the container on site. So we can go ahead and actually preview this real quick. I'm going to go to Stape events. The preview must be a very familiar site for everyone here. So we can go to to a product page, for instance, and there's our view item Stape event. This is the suffix that I talked about. You have the normal GA4 schema. In the user data, there's also my email available simply because I'm logged into the admin panel and it's recognized me as a user. Right. So now we have absolutely empty containers. So let's go ahead and introduce some tags into them. And like I told you previously, I'm not going to do it manually. This is not that kind of webinar. If you're interested in that, we do have recordings from the previous ones. We are going to concentrate on scale, which we're going to achieve by using the pre-made templates that we already distribute. So you want to go to our GitHub. You can just Google GitHub Stape or just find it by the URL. This will be distributed, of course. You want to find the repository for WooCommerce specifically. We have a bunch called GTM container templates. There will be Shopify. There will be all those other platforms. And since today we're talking about Meta, I'm going to download two. I'm going to download Facebook Web, which is feed FB Web rather. Sorry, no, I'm just going to download the entire thing. Just download the repository. I'm going to unpack it. And we're going to go into our web container first. We want to go to the admin section. There's an import functionality there. So we're going to import. I will say overwrite again, because this is a fresh new container. So let me select the template real quick. I'm going to go for Facebook Web. I'm going to put it in the default workspace. I'm going to go with overwrite. If, again, hypothetically, you're doing this in an existing container, you can always do merge. It's not showing anything for me right now. The naming and everything has sort of a specific pattern. I don't imagine 100% matches in your existing containers, so there will not be any conflicts. Even if there is some naming that coincides in the existing container compared to the template, you can always do this. Rename conflicting tags. It will just create one in the bracket copies of the names. So again, you will not be breaking the existing setup or anything. For now, I'm going to go with override because again, I'm running a fresh container. So I'm going to add that to workspace. Voila. We have a ton of tags here, but all of them this is the data layer variables, right? To pick up the user data, pick up the product data. There are the triggers that are used in the setup. You have your meta tags. You have our data tag, which is responsible for sending things to the server. You have some additional supporting stuff such as unique event ID, and you have the settings folder. So in the web container, and this is talking about scale again, the only thing you need to do to apply this, you need to give it two parameters. You want to give it the server container URL, which is something you would have pointed to Stape by this time. So just put your value here. I'm going to replace it with our server container URL like this and save it. This is already referenced, it is already referenced in all of the tags that are relevant. So you don't need to do any adjustment there. You just change the variable and now it's plugged in into all of those data tags. We now do the same for our metapixel ID. We want to replace the standard value with something that is actually real. So let's grab our dataset ID and put it here. Pretty much the web container is done. If we were to quickly go ahead and launch preview, and again, I'm going to just show you an event real quick. Let's go to a product page, for instance. We have our view items tape, data layer we already talked about, and there are there's a failed state. That's interesting, but nonetheless, you have the Facebook, the view content contain. Apologize. The view content. There's something wrong with the templates here. I'm sorry, guys. These things always happen on the demo. One quick second. Yeah, there's some mess with the templates. Oh, this is so funny. Okay, let's refresh real quick. Yeah, it's all data tag. Lovely. Okay. All right. Okay. No panic. So once you actually go here and download the template, it will be an actual working one. I have no clue what happened here. Let's try another one real quick to maybe avoid this issue on the live presentation. Apologize. Let's try another one. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to override it again. Hopefully this is okay. We want to add the existing default workspace. And to workspace. Yeah, we now have the proper templates. Again, apologize for that mishap. The principle stands. This template has a little bit more. It has GA4 included. By the way, for those interested, this is also part of the templatized sort of solution. So GA4 is available for those who need it. Same idea stands. You have all of the tags pre-made. And then the same principle stands here. We just want to give it some input. So let me repeat myself and give it the proper one. So we want to give it the server container URL. We also want to give it the pixel ID as we did before. Save, right? And now if we were to actually preview this, we should not have those issues. Let's go to a plant page. Let's see our view items tape. And here's our Facebook event firing successfully. It has sent the value, sent the currency, sent the content ID and the quantity. It has also sent my email again because I'm logged in. Data tag here have failed somehow. Need to double check something on the course, but the principle stands, right? So other events will work in a similar fashion. Again, in this specific template, which is like a backup one I used, you can see GE4 and Google Ads are also included, so you can configure them in the same fashion. Again, not going to stop on that too much. Now we do the server container in a very same kind of capacity. So we want to go server container, admin, import a template, choose a container template. I'm going to go safe this time and use the one that will definitely work. Let's do override. Right. Same principle. We have our folders. Everything is structured. And we have a settings folder. And for the purposes of this, we're only going to need two data points. The metapixel ID, which we already have, and the conversion API token. which we're going to get from Meta here. And if we just do generate access token, copy this, put it here, and save it, our setup is pretty much done. Again, let's not touch the Google Ads and such for now. Let me pause them. But if we were to launch a preview, which I'm going to do momentarily, let's just add a preview URL, which would be our subdomain. And launch that preview on the server. Give it a sec. There's like a test preview pod being deployed on Stape in real time. So this is now happening. We can refresh the page on, let's say, our page view here. And there you go. There's our data tag delivering a page view event. We have fired a Facebook counterpart on the server container, which was delivered. This is a page view event. There's an event ID, so the duplication is already handled for you. There's our view item event, for instance, which have fired here. And we have sent, same as from the web, we have sent the contents information, content IDs, so product information, value, currency, event ID, my email, because it was already there. So this pretty much is how you can apply those templates, and the setup in them will be very, very easy and quick, and you will have a working basics, which again, I imagine some of you are thinking, what about consent and such? Obviously, you have to add like consent on top if that's a requirement of your customer. I imagine most of your customers will have some other specific like tailored requirements on top of just the standard e-commerce events or anything like that. But this gives you a working basis, a working skeleton, which is fully configured. Another thing I want to point out is you will find that every single event has a dedicated tag. We never do like a one tag approach, because again, in this context, that gives you more control and it gives you more capacity for customizing, right? Let's say your customer tells you, hey, I need some sort of tweak just in a view item event. You don't need to figure out how the template or the client is parsing information. It's all explicitly mapped out for you in the tags with all the data. You can always tweak it. You can always add something on top. And yeah, and that would be my demo. Just for a conclusion, I want to show you this page that we have. This is /meta conversion API server GTM. There's all of those platforms listed, which I mentioned. There's PrestaShop, Shopware coming soon, Wix, and BigCommerce. And you can download the templates, which will lead you to GitHub. You can also always follow the dedicated guides, which will pretty much tell you all the things I just did, how to import that template, what to do stateside, how it works, and how to debug it further. And once you have done that in your events manager, the biggest thing you're going to see once you did a server-side implementation, let me pick some other pixel, just the one that has some events in it. Just one sec. There's a ton of demo ones, so I apologize. It's hard to find one. Well, that's fairly important though. Oh my God. What I'm trying to say, and while I'm finding the pixel, is what you're going to see, the biggest indicator is the matching score, right? The EMQ. So once you start sending server-side events, and I cannot seem to find a working pixel. Just give me another second, guys.
I think I saw some events on Dense Market Pixel. Markets
I think this one.
There was like,
oh, right. Okay. Thank you very much, Nasty. Thank you for that. Right. So, and again, this may be not like big news for anyone, but still. So you can see this pixel, then market, then being me. There's no actual pixel. This is another test initiative. You can see that there's a match score available on the events, and that only pops up once you actually start sending the server-side events, right? Which you can see in this graph, where the blue ones stand for the browser, the teal line stands for the server. So once you send the server events, you have this entity called event match quality, which you can always open up and see what's responsible for bringing it to a certain point, right? I'm looking at the page view event. There's not much going on. It's 5.9 simply because I've sent a lot of Facebook click IDs. However, you start adding user data to this, you start adding, emails, phone number, first name, last name, the match score will grow respectively, ultimately meaning better attribution to your campaigns, better lookalike audiences, and overall indirectly, but better campaign performance. I think I'm done with the demo, but since we still have some time, I'm happy to do some live Q&A. So let me just look into the chat real quick. I'll probably stop sharing for now. And let me just see what's going on here. So we have a QA section, it's big. There's 5 open questions. I would like some insights on adjusting the Stape setup with CAPI to ensure compliance with meta new data restrictions updated in Jan 2025. Well, there's nothing you can adjust on the tracking level, not really. If there's some compliance issues, and I believe you're referring to the health industry and such, you should really contact your Meta representative and they will guide you through the thing, right? It's not a matter of your tracking per se. You still need to be like qualified and like flagged to be able to continue to send the events that you're looking for. Again, an anonymous attendee, I assume that was your question. If not, you can always reach out to us. We'll try to elaborate on that. So, right. Since GTM server is already tracking KPG, oh, this kind of lacks context. I believe this may have been already answered. But to try and like pick up on that, right? So the gateway and SGTM, they are interchangeable in terms of your conversion API reporting. So if you have the one, you don't really need the other unless you're doing something very crazy or some sort of experiment. So Sasha, if that's what you were asking, here's my answer. But with a tag for each event, isn't there a risk of slowing down the site too much? Each text slows down the loading of the pages. Well, okay, that's a legit concern. But first of all, not all of your tags are firing on all of your pages, and all of your tags use the same template. So in terms of GTM load, you're loading the same thing pretty much. You will not see any dramatic or even relevant changes in your site speed because of every single event being tagged separately. You still have page view firing on all pages. All the other tags will only fire in the relative places, in the respective and needed places. So you're not losing anything. Does it improve tracking? It doesn't improve tracking per se. What it does, I would say, is it allows you for better maintenance and better explicit control. Because if you need to introduce changes to a specific event rather than to an overall stack, that goes a long way. And this is just coming from experience. But again, this is a bit of a philosophical approach. This depends a lot on how you deal with your containers, how you deal with your customers, what's the nature of relationship with those customers. Are you taking decisions on your own or such? So don't think of it as a requirement. That's just the approach we normally take when we do an implementation. Is it okay to have so many pixels on the one ad account? For example, one run lead gen for AC, roofer, and then for the same ad account. Should I just create different pixels and use them for each campaign? Rohit, do you want to cover that? The question is, do you need to split things into different pixels if you're running a single ad account, or maybe you can just use the one?
Yeah, it's a good question. I would say traditionally, I've seen most businesses have one pixel. That being said, if you have like a very unique setup with like, maybe like many different websites, then I think that requires like more than one pixel. But I would say the best practice is for simplicity's sake, especially if you're like, just adopting the conversions API, I would just say to start with one pixel.
Right, amazing. And I hope that gives an answer. Stape data client versus GA4 client. What is the benefit of using the Stape client for server GTM? The biggest benefit is it's a platform agnostic tag. If you're in a situation where you do not require GA4, you will forego loading a ton of JavaScript, which you don't otherwise need, right? So Google kind of backed you into GA4 is the only transfer mechanism to the server container. That is kind of true because most of the people out there use Google Analytics. However, if you don't, and in this isolated example, which we did today, we were only focused on Meta. If that's your entire goal, you don't need GE4 to have things running. Data tag data client is just a platform agnostic mechanism to pass information from web to the server. That's the biggest benefit. In practice, it also handles objects much better than GE4. You don't need to stringify your JSON objects unless it's an items array. But again, no pressure here. The template that I ended up using, which had also had GE4 there, so you can absolutely do your setup just using GE4. All right, let's go next. In some e-commerce events, the events do not have the items array, such as begin checkout, for example. But I can store it in the Stape database for user ID in other events, such as add to cart, so I end up firing this begin checkout to the server. And I could use it to bring the items array by querying the Stape database. Is there any way problem merging the sending with data traffic? That's a complicated, that's a lot of context there. In principle, what you're saying, yes, it is entirely possible. If some data is missing on a single event in a funnel, but you have it on prior events, you can stitch it together. It's not, you don't necessarily have to use Stape Store for it. You can do, you can just do like browser local storage if you want to, even a cookie, maybe, but that's a tool, not the concept. So pick what works for you. In principle, that's absolutely possible. You can enrich any event in Google Tag Manager with pre-stored or real-time queried information. That's absolutely all right. Does the pixel match quality score improve too? So yeah, that's a good one. So pixel match score quality is improved solely by the amount of data you are pushing with that event. That data being PII, so that's first name, last name, email, phone number, city, postal code, country, anything user provided that can make it easier to match the event to an actual user. On top of it, there's also two parameters. One is the Facebook browser ID, so that's your FBP cookie. Again, serves the same sort of purpose. It's easier to stitch the event to an actual customer. And obviously, a big contributor is the Facebook Click ID, which is an FBC cookie. That's a big one. This is just like natural. The more people come directly from advertising clicks, the more of a match score you will have because it's that much easier for Meta to stitch them to a campaign. So Simon, I think I've answered your question there. In this GTM, I filter triggers based on X device bot variable. I have the impression that meta scoring isn't improving because the pixel navigator side is sending all the events. What's the best practice in this case? Well, if you have to do what you're doing and filter with X device bot variable, you can return that decision, that header, right? By decision, I mean the bot or not. You can return that header back to your web container if you want to. So just reach out to support. They will tell you how. There's a tag called JSON response. It can send back to your web container anything you need, push it into the data layer, and then your website pixel can benefit from the same bot detection situation you got going there, Frederick. So there you go. Hey, I have 14 more, so let me try and cover them real quick. NSGT, okay, we talked about it. Does the Google first-party cookie setup with the Cloudflare Enterprise plan have a real tracking boost compared to Cookie Keeper or Worker SGTM solution? Have you ever tested that setup? It achieves the same goal, so they are very comparable. It's just that with first-party cookie setup with Cloudflare Enterprise and everything, you don't need so much going on in the middle, such as would be with Cookie Keeper or the Worker or anything. Think of it as the most natural quote unquote way to ensure cookie persistence, right? But ultimately it achieves the same thing. So if, let's say, it's a problem for your customer potentially having the Cloudflare Enterprise, or even explaining this to them, and you can rely on a cookie keeper because you're on one of the CMSs that we support, or you have a proper master cookie or master identifier, then absolutely that will be good enough for you to, to achieve the same goals. What does the name Stape mean? Well, there's a lot of legends out there. So one would be server tape. I think that's the most fitting one, like the big old servers like IBM and such. That's kind of alluding to that. If you Google Stape though, or you go to Wikipedia, that's like a smallest bone in your body, somewhere in your inner ear, but that has no relation to the product, obviously. There's a bit of trivia for you. I've noticed that Signal Pixel is tracking way better than regular Pixel and KPG, but I had the duplication issues. What's the best setup and best practice to use Signals Pixel? Can I use a standalone without regular Pixel and without KPG? You can. The short answer, you can. The long answer, probably reach out and let's discuss it. But briefly, yes, you can use just the Signals Pixel without the Meta Pixel, without Conversion API Gateway. The reason, I mean, I don't want to assume what's happening there and why you have issues with the duplication. We can look into that, but you don't need that entire stack. You can just rely on the Signals Pixel if you're like if you're happy to implement it. The reason I imagine why you have the KPG behind is because when you launch Signals, it's just easy, and interface suggests you to hook up to existing pipeline, which would be your Conversion API gateway, right? That's not a necessity though. You can reduce all of that to just a Signals Pixel. Is the custom loader more use important as recommended by Stape? If yes, then will it help the business? Absolutely. So custom loader is responsible for two things. First of all, you will have your GTM web container be downloaded in situations where it wouldn't otherwise, namely ad blocking software and such other script prevention tools, which run on open databases, which have GTM script patterns listed, and they will block it. So that's use number one. Use number two would be Cookie Keeper if you're using that, which makes sure that in a Safari environment, the cookies actually persist for more, they are reset for more. So absolutely use it by default. If you can, always do it. Always do it. Also, speaking back to what I mentioned during the demo, the custom loader is also responsible for feeding your Stape analytics, and that will help you in terms of just demonstrating the uplift in a very digestible sort of form, because you'll have those graphs for each event, and you can see the uplift from implementing server side. In this instance, meaning implementing the custom loader. What is different with Signals Gateway? Anonymous attendee, everything is different. That's a different solution. You have more destinations than just the Conversion API gateway. You have the BigQuery, you have the custom destinations. So in a way, it's kind of stepping on the GTM turf, where it allows you for just a little bit more customization while still being in the Meta sort of infrastructure family and such. Boom. And I think I did all 15. No. Correct me if I'm wrong. If there's something else, you guys have 5 more minutes, and then my throat will stop working. If I run Facebook lead gen ads with Facebook Instant Forms, how does Pixel collect data? Well, that's a multifaceted question. By default, your Pixel should probably be... Oh, you mean the Instant Forms. So you mean like the Forms Facebook side? So if you mean Forms Facebook side, Rohit will back me up here, but that is just like picked up by Facebook natively, because that's in Facebook interface and everything. You don't really need to do anything specifically. Am I right there?
That's generally right.
Right. Then what you probably want to do is, yeah, all right. Yeah, it doesn't go to the website. Sure, right. So you don't need to do anything explicit. What you want to do, and this will be on upcoming webinars with Rohit as well, so do visit, is you want to probably then report the progress of that lead, which is where we come in, right? So if that lead ultimately lands in your CRM and goes through your business funnel, where it from a lead becomes like, I don't know, a prospect and then a customer or anything, that we will cover separately, and I think you'll find it interesting. But the instant form itself, you need to do nothing. That's just handled for you. All right. This was answered live. Can you explain this was answered live? Everything was answered live, I think. So do you always suggest meta event tracking with the override solution over inherit from client? It's not a big deal, right? If you mean my stuff about separating everything into separate event tags, within those event tags, you can still use the inherit from client option. That really just influences the event name. Again, following the philosophy I presented here, where I do everything explicitly and I map it all explicitly, following that logic, I do override because I am, I have in front of me always the event name that I'm going to send. However, the results are the same. That does not like improve your tracking or anything. This is just an approach to organizing your tags. So is there a feature in Stape that I can use to send a JSON that I use to fire a purchase tag, which arrive through a webhook so that I can send it to web and also fire? No, Kale, that will be too much. You can send your webhooks to your server container, but at the point where an event arrives to a server container, in that context, there's no knowledge of a web session being existent or even, being active right now. So there's nowhere to send that to, although technically we could. So from your equation, cut the web part, and you can just report off of a webhook into SGTM and then further into Meta. We did Quedex several weeks ago. With a quick gateway, we have 6 1 time on if it'd be much. Will this increase it with setup as GTM instead? We have not done server-side GTM anything. So, Paul, like I said before, the match score is informed purely by the amount of data you're sending. If you're running the gateway and you want to improve the match score, you should look into your web setup where the pixel is implemented and try and see if within your event stack there is possibility for you to send more user data. If you just switch to server-side GTM on its own, it's not going to do anything. It will only be better if the respective payloads contain more information. Because again, the GTM or not, those are tools, but the EMQ is informed not by the tool, but by the payloads you're sending. Advantage of using Stape setup versus Shopify Facebook app, which also offers conversion API. I would say, again, to be fully transparent, control. Control, you send the events the way you send the events, you map the events the way you send them, you control which user data you send or not. You always are explicitly in control of consent if that's something you're implementing, and you can always do tweaks on the go to a specific event or to a specific data point rather than relying on whatever the homogeneous application has already kind of black boxed for you. And I'm not saying it's like bad or anything, it absolutely functions, but it's a nature of any homogeneous application like that. It's built to fit everyone, so it's kind of a jack of all trades, and that takes away some of the customization which you may need. You may not, again, depends on your case. So Cookie Keeper would help. We have events. Our checkouts are on off website. Okay, when your checkouts are on off website, that's a completely different sort of situation because of Cookie Keeper by default will not help. There's still first-party context needed. Again, reach out to discuss this in more detail. It's really hard to cover within a couple of minutes. Is it important for us to have cookie consent set up with Stape? Absolutely is. If your regulation, if the business is running under regulations such as GDPR or any other stuff, and it requires you to have consent, you should have consent implemented. Server-side tracking is not a tool to forego consent or anything. It has to be implemented. You should always respect customer decision and follow their consent. Yeah, it only works if you consent was given or again, the implementation I showed you by default works at all times. You have to weave in consent into it if you need to. Feel free to reach out. We'll help you do that, but you're not foregoing consent simply because you did server-side. Have you planned to connect Stape data containers directly to Looker Studio? Well, Frederick, you're the second person in the world who's asking about that. You're not the first, but we don't really see much of a demand just yet. If you're looking for, to visualize something in Looker Studio, do it either through GA4, Google Sheets, or BigQuery. All three you can report to from your server container. So that kind of pipeline is already handled for you. We're considering maybe doing this for the Stape store, but then again, need to have enough volume of requests for that. All right, guys, I think we need to wrap up because the questions will keep on going. I want to say thanks to everyone. Thank you for the attention. Thanks for a lot of questions. There were some answered in the chat, some answered live. You will receive a follow-up to this webinar with an actual recording of everything we did today, as well as those questions and answers to them, and some other amazing stuff from our marketing department. So I'm going to shut down my mic, and everybody have a great evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining.